In this tutorial, I'm going to show you how to create the databases for this course. So here I've got MySQL Workbench open. Let me quickly give you an overview of this interface because the first time you open it, it might appear a little bit intimidating, but actually it's not that difficult. So here on the top, we've got this toolbar with these buttons for creating a new tab for writing SQL code, as well as opening a SQL file. And next to that, we've got a bunch of buttons for creating a database, creating new tables, and so on. On the left side, we've got the Navigator panel with two tabs, Administration and Schemas. We use the Administration tab to do administrative work, such as starting or stopping our server, importing or exporting data, and so on. The Schemas tab shows the databases that we have in the current database server. So currently, we only have one database, that is SYS, and this is the database that MySQL uses internally to do its work. Now, in the middle, we've got this query editor window. This is where we write our SQL code. So we'll be spending most of our time in this course in this window. And on the right side, we've got another panel with two tabs, Context Help and Snippets. The chances are this interface might look slightly different on Windows, but what I'm showing you here is almost identical with what we have on Windows. So don't get hung up if it looks slightly different on your machine. It doesn't really matter. Now up here, we've got these buttons for showing or hiding these panels. So to clean this interface, I'm going to hide this panel on the right side, as well as the panel on the bottom. That is better. Now to create the databases for this course, download the zip file I've attached below this video. When you extract this zip file, you're going to see a bunch of SQL files like this. So the main one that you will be using in this tutorial is called createdatabases.sql. So this file contains all the SQL code to create all the databases that we need in this course. Now we also have individual files for creating individual databases. I just added these files in case you need to recreate one of these databases in the future. But for now, don't worry about them. Now, back to MySQL Workbench. Let's open the main SQL file. That is create databases. So this is an example of SQL code. Now this may look complex at the beginning, but trust me, as you go through the course, you're going to understand exactly how everything works here. You're going to be able to write SQL code like this. So we want to execute this to create all the databases for this course. To do that, we click on this icon, this yellow thunder icon that we have on this toolbar here. This will execute either the selection or the entire code if there is nothing selected. For example, if I select this line here and click on this icon, this will execute only this line. In this case, we want to execute the entire code, so we shouldn't select anything. And now let's execute this. Beautiful. So here down the bottom, we have this panel called the output window that shows all the operations performed in our database server. So we can check to see if all the operations completed successfully or something went wrong. As you can see, we've got these green ticks next to each operation. Beautiful. So I'm going to close this panel. That's better. Now on the left side in the Schemas tab, currently we don't see the new databases. So we'll have to refresh this view. Beautiful. So we've got all these databases that are prefixed with SQL or SQL. I decided to prefix them with SQL so we know that these are the databases for this course. They don't accidentally clash with another database with the same name on your database server. Now, at the time of recording this video, there are only 4 databases here, but as we go through the course, I'm going to update the script for creating the databases. So when you watch this course, chances are you're going to see more databases here. Don't worry about the difference. Now, as an example, let's explore one of these databases. And by the way, we don't need this tab anymore, so let's close it. That's better. Let's expand the SQL Store database. Now in every database, we have these objects. We have tables. This is where we store our data. We have views, which are kind of like virtual tables. So we can combine data from multiple tables and put them in a view. And this is especially powerful for creating reports. You're going to learn about them in the future. We also have stored procedures and functions. And these are little programs that we store inside of our database for querying data. For example, we can have a stored procedure for getting all the customers in a given city. So we call that procedure and say, hey, give me all the customers in San Francisco. And this will return all the customers in San Francisco. Okay. Now let's expand the tables. So here are the tables in this database. We have customers, we have orders, products, shippers, and so on. Now select this customers table. Whenever you hover your mouse over this item, you should see these three icons on the right side. Click on the rightmost icon that looks like a table with a thunder. With this, we can see all the data in this table. So this is our customers table. In this table, we have these columns like customer ID, which we use to uniquely identify customers. We also have first name, last name, birth date, phone, address, and so on. So these are the columns in this table, and every row is called a record. So every row represents one customer, and these are the pieces of information we know about each customer. Now let's look at another table. Let's open the orders table. In this table, we have these columns like order ID, customer ID, order date, status, and so on. What is this customer ID here? We use this column to identify who has placed each order. Now, what is interesting here is that we are referring to these customers using their customer ID, which uniquely identifies them. In other words, if John Smith has placed an order, we don't store John Smith here. We only store John's customer ID. Why is that? Here's the reason. It is possible that John Smith might have placed multiple orders in our system. Now, every time John places an order, we need to look up his address and phone to ship his order. Now, it is possible that some of this information might change in the future. John might move to a new place or change his phone number. He might even change his name. If we repeat all that information next to each order, then we'll have to come back and make changes in multiple places. In contrast, with this design, we only store the ID of John here. So anytime we want to change any information about John, instead of changing that here, we go back to our customers table. So let's look at the customer with ID 6. That is actually called Elka. So here are all the information about Elka. This is her phone number, this is her address, and by the way, this is all dummy data that I created using a tool. So if any information about Elka changes in the future, this is the only place that we need to modify. So this is how these databases work. We refer to these databases as relational databases. That basically means in this kind of databases, we have multiple tables that are related to each other using a relationship. So internally, there is a relationship between the customers table and the orders table. So the customer ID column in the customers table is related or linked or associated with the customer ID column in the orders table. Here's the orders table, and here we have the customer ID column. So this was a brief introduction to relational databases. You learned about databases, tables, columns, rows, and relationships. In the next section, I'm going to show you how to retrieve data from a single table in this database. But before going any further, as an exercise, I want you to explore the invoicing database. Look at all the tables, look at all the data to get an idea of the kind of data we have in this database. We're going to use this database a lot in the future. So we'll spend a couple of minutes to explore this database.